Welcome to JimiG's AnÖmaly, the podcast. The podcast is hosted by J.G. Lasak. Today's episode is Optimizing Human Performance with our special guest, Sean.connelly. We're glad you can join us. Sit back and enjoy JimiG's AnÖmaly, the podcast. And now, Jim Lasak.
Welcome, everybody. Some 5 years later, we're back in the studio with JimiG's podcast. Actually, it was called JimiG's podcast back in 2019, but we changed it to JimiG's AnÖmaly podcast because that's the name of my music project, and we plan to make some announcements with that project real soon on this show. And we plan to feature local artists, local musicians, local bands. It's going to be a lot about music, but it's also going to be about some interesting topics. So today we have Sean.connelly in the studio, Dr. Sean.connelly, who is going to talk about optimizing human performance. Thanks for being with us, Sean.
Thanks for having me on there, Jim. Glad to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. So what is this upcoming holistic health conference about?
So there are a lot of myths out there regarding the health industry and fitness, and I want to try to dispel a lot of those different myths. I want to teach people how they can be healthier without medications, naturally through a variety of exercise, diet, nutrition advice, pain relief without medications. And so I'm bringing out Jaquish, who's from California, of Jaquish Biomedical, and he's an expert in what's called osteogenic loading, so increasing bone density to decrease osteoporosis. So we're going to bring him out. We're going to have some other guests there, which should be a pretty cool event.
So tell us about what is osteogenic loading.
So osteogenic loading is essentially using resistance to create enough force in your body to increase bone density. So it's been shown we can do it through strength training. It's just not as efficient as some of the equipment that John has developed over the years with his company. So he's designed these machines called OsteoStrong, which he has clinics all over the world. People will use these machines about 10 minutes a day and basically increase their bone density, reverse osteoporosis and osteopenia without medication, which is pretty cool because a lot of the osteoporosis and osteopenia medications can have a lot of negative side effects. So if people can do that without the medication, I mean, it's huge. Just using
that is huge. I was under the impression that this is like the same thing as osteoporosis.
Yep.
Yeah. I was under the impression that's not treatable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's there's a certain thing called Wolff's Law, which is basically if you exert enough pressure onto the bone, onto the tissue, it'll essentially react and respond by increasing its strength, kind of like muscle tissue. We go to the gym, we exercise, we lift weights, we stretch bands, variable resistance, we increase our strength, our muscle size. Bone is the same way. It's constantly breaking down and regenerating. So they found that if you exert enough force onto the bone, you can actually increase its density, increase its strength without the need to take any medications.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And who came through with this?
That was Dr. John Jaquish. He has a company out in California. It's called Jaquish Biomedical. And he has clinics called OsteoStrong that are, I believe they're all over the world. And people will go, they use these machines. Basically, it puts them in a certain position where they can exert up to 7 to 10 times the amount of force onto their bone just by contracting their muscles hard enough, because their muscles are essentially in their strongest anatomical position.
Wow, really interesting. I've also did some research on your upcoming event at Wayne State University, and you're going to talk about pain relief and recovery without medications?
Yep. Yeah, I'll be covering a lot of the physical therapy aspect as far as how we can heal our body without the need for a lot of the opioids and different pain medications that, again, have a lot of very serious side effects. So I'll be talking about a variety of the things that we do in physical therapy to treat muscular dysfunction, anything neurologic, neuro pain, muscle pain, whether it's arthritis or neuropathy. So I'll be discussing some things like functional dry needling. Cryotherapy is huge now, so I'll be discussing some of the pluses and minuses of that, and a variety of other topics.
What does dry needling do?
So with dry needling, I'm using a very thin, it's called a monofilament needle, and I'm targeting trigger points in the muscle tissue. So when muscles, basically, if we're underusing them, if we're overusing them, if they're injured, we'll develop these adhesions, these big knots in the muscle fibers, and the muscle can't contract and relax efficiently. And so the needling, I'm basically finding those trigger points, is what they're called, and I'm hitting them with the needle. And then I typically use an electric stimulation on there, so I contract the muscle, which essentially flushes out a chemical called acetylcholine that just keeps the muscle bound up and contracted and tight. So it's kind of like hitting the reset button on your muscle tissue. It's like your phone doesn't work, you turn it off, turn it on, works fine. Muscle, we kind of hit the reset button, flush out the acetylcholine, release those big trigger points in the muscle tissue, and then all of a sudden you go from, your neck is your trap, oh man, it's really sore, it hurts right here, I'll needle it, 30 seconds later, pull the needle out, I'll palpate the same spot, and it's typically, oh yeah, it feels great. I can't even tell where that pain was.
That's very interesting. Are the patients reporting success with this, or is it all over the map?
Yeah, it's depending on what the symptoms are. For muscle pain, the trigger points works great. I use it for tendonitis quite a bit as well. So people that'll get what they call golfer's elbow or tennis elbow. I'll needle in their forearm, and then I'll also needle in their tendon and essentially poke the tendon with the needle to try to force a little bit of blood flow in there, which has been very successful as well. So that, plantar fasciitis, really a lot of the soft tissue injuries is very efficient, very effective for.
So I'm somebody who doesn't like needles. Does it hurt?
Nah, I always tell people it's weird. It's not that you go in and you get an injection and you're like, you get that little poke feeling. The needles themselves are so thin, it's about the size of a strand of hair, so you typically don't feel it when it goes in there. Sometimes when the muscle is really tight and I hit one of those trigger points, it'll elicit what's called a twitch response, which is basically the needle hits that spot in the muscle, and all of a sudden the muscle just like, bloop, it's kind of like it just lets go. So you get this quick little twitch, which is actually a spinal cord reflex in the muscle tissue. That can be a little strange for people because they're not really expecting that quick twitch like that.
Mm-hmm. And what does this therapy treat?
That, a lot of different soft tissue muscular imbalances, trigger points, a lot of myofascial pain, tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, pain in the bottom of the foot. Treat a lot of that with it. Muscle dysfunction, muscles not contracting and relaxing properly. We can essentially reset it just by hitting it and then stimulating it with the electric stimulation.
Neat. Very, very, very interesting. So, at this upcoming event that you have at Wayne State University, I understand that you're going to have some pro pro representatives from the Detroit teams around. Is that true, or is that not true?
Yeah, we're hoping to. So we work with Primitiv Performance, which is Calvin Johnson and Rob Sims' company. So they just started a CBD company where they have topical CBD creams. They also have electrolyte mixes that are infused with CBD, and their target is mainly professional athletes. So I believe right now they currently have a contract with the Lions. I believe the Tigers. I know Calvin, they just signed a deal with the American Flag Football Association. So unfortunately, Calvin won't be at the event that day because he'll be out in Vegas that weekend at the big American Flag Football Association conference, whatever they're having out there. But their marketing team is reaching out to a lot of the pros, the trainers, their athletic support staff with the Tigers, the Lions, the Red Wings, Pistons, the Detroit Panthers. So they're going to promote it to them and see if we can round up some of the pros to come to the conference, which I think would be kind of cool.
Wow, it sounds like a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I originally had the idea for this whole big conference when the Lions were just destroyed by injuries this past year. A lot of broken bones, a lot of non-contact injuries, and Dr. John Jaquish, being one of the world's leading experts in bone density and fracture prevention, I thought he'd be great to come out here and do a whole lecture, workshop kind of thing with all the pros. I'm inviting a lot of the doctors that we work with, surgeons, athletic trainers, physical therapists, professors. John's a biomedical engineer, so I invited the biomedical engineering department from University of Michigan, who I believe there's a few of them signed up. But a lot of healthcare providers, and then really anybody interested in health and just improving their performance, living a better, healthier lifestyle.
So how can we expect to optimize human performance?
Yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about that. So we're going to kind of hit a lot of different topics. I'll be discussing nutrition. I'll also be discussing the pain relief and recovery without medications. And John will be discussing osteogenic loading and osteoporosis, and then something called variable resistance, which I actually did a research study using some of his equipment and found that people using these particular bands, this equipment, which is called variable resistance. So basically the resistance changes as you're going through the exercise. So it stimulates muscle a lot more than traditional free weights do. So he's going to be discussing variable resistance because in the research study that I conducted with his product, we found that basically people would do 10 minutes of exercise with this equipment, the heavy-duty bands, compared to about 90 minutes with traditional free weights. I measured muscle hypertrophy, muscle strength, and body fat percentage, and within 10 minutes a day compared to about 90 minutes with the free weight group, the variable resistance group had better muscle hypertrophy, so they grew more muscle. They also increased strength more, and body fat was about the same as far as body fat loss during the study, which was 12 weeks. So he'll be discussing the variable resistance. We're going to have Primitiv Performance there, which is Calvin and Rob's company. I'll discuss a little bit about the topical creams, the CBD rubs that they have, and just some of the benefits that I've seen in my own patients as far as pain relief and neuropathy, the neuropathic pain goes.
So we have on the screen right now a little bit of information about the event that you're having at Wayne State University. It's going to be at the Community Arts Auditorium. And if anybody wants to get more information about that, you could go to my website, JimiGProductions.com, or you could also go to Sean's website, which should be coming up here in any second now. Yeah. There he is. You can send Sean an email at Sean.connelly at teamrehab.com. We're going to be back after this song by JimiG's AnÖmaly music group. I did say that this podcast was going to be a little bit about my music, so we're going to feature a video called Tsunami, and we'll be right back to talk about nutrition with Sean.connelly. This is JimiG's AnÖmaly, Tsunami.
tropical heaven. I feel the earth rumble. I feel the earth begin. The earth is speaking. Rumble of the ocean seemed to get there. It's knocking us so close to the team. Diablo strikes a pitchfork on the metal. God is mad. Oh God, my God, is angry. He breaks Diablo's pitchfork on the planet's mantle. How could it be? Oh, destruction! One of those, or two of those, are burning desperation. Or perhaps their hand, or grabbed him to safety. The birds are screeching recklessly.
So that features Joe Canitra on acoustic guitar, Rob Scalisi on drums, Joni Collinger on back vocals, and yours truly, JimiG on synth bass, slide guitar, and vocals. We are back in the studio with
Sean.connelly, Dr. Sean.connelly, who is going to talk at this Wayne State event on April 12th, right?
Yep.
April 12th. Sean will discuss optimized human nutrition to improve health. Mm-hmm. But you allegedly are going to break some myths. Can you give us a hint as to what you're going to break?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are... First of all, very nice song there, Jim.
Oh.
You always told me you could sing and play guitar and everything. I never believed you. And there you go.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot, by the way, a lot of music coming. I've been really, for the last 3 months, just locked myself in the recording studio mastering a lot of songs. So we'll have some announcements coming using this forum, actually, on our next show.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, very nice.
Yeah, thanks.
But yeah, so, where to start? When it comes to nutrition, there is just so much out there that is complete and utter garbage. We're told a lot of different things, and none of those things are actually backed in science. And So we kind of get misled with a lot of the advice that we're given. So I'm planning on kind of dispelling a lot of those myths, talking about what our body actually needs to function optimally. Like, for example, one of the things that we've been told for, let's say, weight loss is that if you want to lose weight, it's a balance between calories in and calories out. That's what we're told over and over again. And we've essentially disproven that through multiple research studies over the past 100 years, where they would do varying levels of calorie or caloric restriction. You know, they may have one group doing 500 calories less than their basal metabolic rate, another group doing 700 calories, 900 calories less, that kind of thing. And they're following the American Heart Association's recommended nutrition advice, which is high carb, moderate protein, low fat. In these groups, it's about a 1 in 100 success rate. You know, so some people will lose a little bit of weight, but then as soon as they go off of that caloric restricted state, weight comes right back, and then some. They'll gain 20 to 30 pounds on top of that. They've done other studies where they'll break down the different macronutrients, protein, fat, carbohydrates. They found that removing carbohydrates, these people would eat 1,000 more calories than they're really supposed to, but since they're just eating fats and proteins, they don't gain any weight. They're not having that insulin spike, so their body's not storing fat. So basically, we're going to discuss a lot of different things that we've learned over the years that just have been proven through research aren't actually correct.
Wow, interesting. We got it on the screen again, Optimizing Human Performance, April 12th. It's important to note the event is free and parking is free. And it's at the Community Arts Auditorium, and you need to go. It's going to be really, really, really cool, right?
Yep, going to be good.
And so
I'd like to welcome Sean.connelly.
Accidentally started a video we're not going to go to. I had a video of you and John Jaquish, but it's we're going to run out of time here. I just wanted to put your email up on the screen again. You can see Sean's email if you want to be part of this event, Optimizing Human Performance. Please contact Sean, or you could go to JimiGProductions.com and get information there. But it's going to be really, really, really good. And Sean, really want to give you a chance to provide some closing comments.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate you having me on there. I hope we get a good turnout at the event, hoping we get a lot of the professional athletes. And there's a registration page through Eventbrite, so people can email me, or if they email you, there's a link that we can send them, and they just sign up however many people plan on attending. Primitiv Performance, from what they told me, they'll have some little goodies, some giveaways, I believe some things that have been signed by Calvin and Rob.
Oh, wow. Even more reason to show up.
Yeah.
Will you get into any topics like celiacs and people that are having digestive issues?
Yeah, that'll kind of all be linked into the nutrition stuff.
All right. Well, we're out of time, Sean. Thank you very much for being a part of this, the launch of my podcast. Yeah, and I'm really happy to have you here. And good luck with your event. And we'll hopefully have you back on.
Yeah, love to be back on.
All right. Thanks. Have a good one.
You've been watching JimiG's AnÖmaly, the podcast, with J.G. Lasak. Thank you for tuning in. Today's episode, Optimizing Human Performance. We hope you enjoyed the topics discussed on nutrition, osteogenic loading, pain relief and recovery without medications, and variable resistance. We'd like to thank Sean.connelly for coming in and discussing optimizing human performance. Music provided by JimiG's AnÖmaly Music Project. If you'd like your music featured on the show, send us an email at the email address on the screen. Thanks for tuning in to JimiG's AnÖmaly, the podcast. We'll see you next time.